Welcome to our tranquil space, a sanctuary designed to help you find the deepest, most complete sleep. All the heaviness of the day, all the expectations, all the burdens you carry just for now. Let them rest outside the door. Now, find a truly comfortable position. Slowly feel each part of your body letting go, releasing the weight of gravity, and gently sinking deeper into the soft mattress. Relax your forehead, unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, relax your mind. Tonight, we won't use philosophy to struggle or to overthink. We'll use it to unburden. You don't need to try to understand complex aphorisms or remember anything at all. Simply listen. Allow this voice to wash over you like cool, clear mountain air, softly soothing your tired mind. And finally, take a long, deep breath in, and as you exhale, breathe out the heaviness. Ever so slowly, let us drift into sleep together, and as your body settles into this quiet peace, let your mind begin a journey away from the shadows of the valley and up into the clear light of the peaks, alongside the free spirit, Friedrich Nietzsche. In the stillness between each breath, we will walk the path of the lightness of being, discovering how to cast off the spirit of gravity and how to find a love that does not weigh you down, but teaches you how to fly. Tonight, we will build a space together, a vast open sky of freedom right inside our own minds. Now, let your body rest and let the journey begin. Friedrich Nietzsche, the thunderous prophet of the modern soul, begins his examination of human existence with a declaration of war against a specific, invisible enemy, the spirit of gravity, der Geist der Schwere. In the high altitudes of the Swiss Alps, where the air is thin and the light is sharp, Nietzsche conceived of a philosophy that does not crawl, but dances. When we apply this to the realm of love, we uncover a radical diagnosis of why our relationships often keep us awake at night. We are taught that love is serious business. We are told that love is a burden of responsibility, a heavy chain of forever, a crushing weight of mutual obligation. Nietzsche looks at this heavy, somber version of love and laughs. To him, the spirit of gravity is the force that pulls love down into the mud of possession and guilt. He invites us to reimagine love not as a weight we carry, but as a freedom we inhabit. The central metaphor Nietzsche employs is that of the dancer. He writes in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "I would believe only in a God who could dance. By extension, he would believe only in a love that can dance." Consider the difference between marching and dancing. Marching is heavy, rhythmic, compulsory, and grounded in the earth. It is the movement of soldiers and prisoners. Many relationships are marches, two people trudging side by side under the heavy backpack of shared mortgages, social expectations, and the seriousness of being a couple. Dancing, however, is light. It defies gravity. It involves leaps, turns, and moments where the feet barely touch the ground. A dancing love is one where the participants are agile, playful, and constantly moving in relation to one another without collapsing onto one another. Historically, this perspective was a violent reaction against the heavy, suffocating romanticism of the 19th century. particularly the operas of Richard Wagner. Nietzsche and Wagner were once close friends, but they drifted apart. Why? Because Nietzsche felt Wagner's music was humid, manipulative, and overly heavy. It drugged the senses. It celebrated a love that was tragic, doomed, and drowning in emotion. Nietzsche sought a Mediterranean love, dry, sunny, bright, and light. He wanted a love that did not require a tragic death to be validated. He wanted a love that affirmed life here and now. He saw that we often confuse heaviness with depth. We think that if a relationship is full of drama, tears, and heavy silences, it must be deep. Nietzsche argues that this is merely the spirit of gravity masquerading as significance. True depth is clear, light, and transparent, like a deep pool of water under the sun. A rare and fascinating detail in Nietzsche's private letters is his obsession with diet and digestion as metaphors for the soul. He constantly analyzed what foods made him feel heavy, like German beer and potatoes, and what made him feel light, like tea and Italian fruit. He applied this gastronomic rigor to human connection. He warned against indigestible people who sit in your stomach like a stone. These are the partners who demand constant reassurance, who use guilt as a weapon, who make you feel heavy when you walk into the room. Nietzsche suggests that the first duty of a lover is to not be a burden. Love should give wings, not leaden shoes. This analysis strikes at the heart of our nocturnal anxieties. Why do we toss and turn? Often, it is because we feel the weight of our relationships. We feel responsible for our partner's happiness, responsible for their moods, responsible for the success of the union. Nietzsche shouts from his mountain peak, "Throw off the weight. You are not the beast of burden for another soul." The spirit of gravity whispers, "If you loved them, you would worry about them." Nietzsche answers, "Because I love them, I will fly with them." There is a distinct difference. Worry pins you to the ground. Flight lifts you both up. The devil in Nietzsche's philosophy is not a figure of fire and brimstone, but simply the dwarf who sits on Zarathustra's shoulder, whispering, "You are too heavy. You will never fly." In our relationships, this dwarf is the voice of insecurity. It is the voice that says, "You must lock this person down. You must possess them. You must check their phone. You must be jealous." Jealousy is the ultimate expression of gravity. It is the desperate attempt to use weight to keep someone in place. But Nietzsche reminds us that you cannot dance in chains. If you shackle your partner with gravity, the dance ends, and the marching begins. To overcome the spirit of gravity is to embrace the lightness of being. It is to approach your loved one with a sense of play, spiel. Can you laugh with them? Can you mock the absurdity of your arguments? Can you let go of the heavy need to be right? Nietzsche suggests that the most spiritual moments in love are not the tearful confessions, but the moments of shared, weightless laughter. Laughter is the sound of gravity breaking. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, identify one heavy expectation you are placing on your relationship or your partner. Perhaps it is the expectation that they must understand you perfectly, or the expectation that they must fix your mood. Visualize this expectation as a heavy stone backpack you are wearing in bed. Acknowledge that this weight does not prove your love. It only crushes your sleep. Consciously unbuckle the backpack. Whisper to yourself, I lay this burden down. I choose to be light. Visualize yourself and your loved one not as two pillars supporting a heavy roof, but as two birds catching the same thermal current. Sleep in the weightlessness of that freedom. Section 2. Love from overflowing abundance. Having discarded the spirit of gravity, Nietzsche leads us to the source of true love. He poses a fundamental economic question of the soul. Do you love out of poverty, or do you love out of wealth? Most of the world, Nietzsche argues, loves out of poverty. We feel a hole in our soul, a loneliness, a sense of incompleteness, and we go out into the world begging for someone to fill it. We say, I need you. We treat the beloved as a bandage for our wounds or a meal for our hunger. Nietzsche views this love as need with disdain. He champions a radically different model, love as the gift-giving virtue, die schenkende Tugend. True love must be an explosion of energy from a soul that is already so full, so rich, and so golden that it must give itself away to prevent bursting. This concept completely overturns the romantic myth of two halves making a whole. Nietzsche scoffs at the idea that you are a fragment searching for your missing piece. If you are a fragment, you are dangerous. You will cling. You will suck the life out of the other person. You will become a parasite. Nietzsche demands that you first become a whole, a sovereign, self-contained universe. Only when you are overflowing with your own power, joy, and self-affirmation can you truly love. Why? Because then your love is a gift, not a tax. You are not asking for anything because you already have everything. You are like the sun. The sun does not shine because it needs the earth to say, thank you. The sun shines because it is its nature to burn and radiate. It is indifferent to whether the light is received, yet its light sustains all life. Historically, this ideal was forged in the fire of Nietzsche's own painful independence. He was a man who lived with chronic illness and intense social isolation. He never found a wife, and his proposal to the brilliant Lou Salome was rejected. Yet, he refused to adopt the posture of the victim. He wrote to overcome his own neediness. He wanted to be a creator of values, not a consumer of comfort. He saw the shopkeeper's love of his era, where marriage was a transaction of safety and status, as a degradation of the human spirit. He wanted a love that was a squandering of riches, a noble wastefulness of a heart that has too much to keep inside. A rare and poetic detail in Zarathustra is the metaphor of gold. Zarathustra asks, why is gold the most valuable thing? Not because it is useful like iron, but because it is useless, gleaming, and gentle. Gold represents the gift-giving virtue. It has a luster that gives itself to the eye. Nietzsche contrasts this with the sick soul that is like a sponge always absorbing, always taking, always asking, what is in it for me? The healthy soul is like a fountain always overflowing, indifferent to where the water lands, happy simply in the act of flowing. When we apply this to our sleepless nights, we often find that our anxiety stems from the poverty mindset. We lie awake wondering, am I getting enough out of this relationship? Does he love me enough? Is she giving me what I deserve? These are the questions of a beggar checking his tin cup. Nietzsche invites us to smash the cup. The question should not be, am I loved, but am I capable of loving? The shift is from passive reception to active radiation. When you focus on your own overflow, your own capacity to be kind, to be strong, to be creative, you become independent of the other person's reaction. If they receive your love, good. If they don't, you still shine, because shining is what you do. This overflowing abundance also changes how we view conflict. When two poor souls fight, it is a battle for resources. You didn't give me attention. You didn't give me respect. They are fighting over scraps. When two wealthy souls fight, it is a collision of stars. It may be explosive, but it is not petty. They do not need to steal dignity from each other, because they both possess an infinite supply of self-respect. Nietzsche encourages us to cultivate our own garden so intensely that we have fruits to offer without depleting our stock. If you are exhausted by love, it is a sign that you are loving from your reserves, not your overflow. Nietzsche warns of the danger of the parasite, the person who has no inner life and attaches themselves to a strong host. But he also warns of the host who needs the parasite to feel important. This is a subtle form of poverty. I need you to need me. This, too, is weakness. The truly overflowing soul wants a partner who is equally strong, equally full. They do not want a patient. They want a playmate. They want another sun to shine with, creating a binary star system of blinding brilliance. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, before you sleep, assess the economy of your heart. Have you been operating like a beggar, waiting for someone to drop a coin of affection into your hand so you can feel good? Reverse the flow. Visualize your own spirit as a golden sun in the center of your chest, generating its own heat and light independent of anyone else. Recall one thing you did today that was purely for your own joy or growth: a book read, a workout finished, a song hummed. This is your fuel. Feel that you are full of yourself in the best sense. From this sensation of fullness, imagine sending a beam of warmth to your loved one, not to get a reaction, but simply because you have too much warmth to keep it all to yourself. Section 3. Solitude as the School of Love. We arrive now at the paradox that sits at the center of Nietzschean love: to be with others. You must first learn to be without them. Nietzsche is the philosopher of solitude, Einsamkeit. While most romantic advice tells you to communicate and connect, Nietzsche advises you to retreat. He argues that solitude is the school where the capacity for love is taught. If you cannot endure your own company, if you bore yourself, if you are afraid of the silence of your own mind, then you are unfit for love. Why? Because you will use the other person as a distraction. You will use them as a drug to numb the pain of being alone. Nietzsche distinguishes sharply between solitude and loneliness. Loneliness, Verlassenheit, is the pain of being alone. It is the feeling that something is missing. Solitude, Einsamkeit, is the glory of being alone. It is the feeling that you are complete. In the marketplace, amidst the noise of the herd, we lose ourselves. We become echoes of other people's opinions and desires. Nietzsche argues that you cannot love a you until you have become an I, and you can only become an I in the silence of the wilderness. Historically, Nietzsche was a man who spent months at a time walking the trails of the Engadin Valley, speaking to no one. He called this his domain. He believed that these periods of isolation were not empty. They were pregnant. They were where he gestated his thoughts, his values, and his spirit. He viewed the modern fear of silence as a symptom of a sick culture. We are terrified of the pause. We fill every second with chatter, with news, with superficial contact. In relationships, this manifests as the need to be constantly in touch. Nietzsche would find our modern obsession with texting the constant, "Where are you?" to be a disaster. It destroys the sacred distance required for the self to grow. A rare and incisive detail in Zarathustra is the critique of the neighbor. Nietzsche writes, "You crowd around your neighbor and have beautiful words for it. But I say unto you, your love of the neighbor is your bad love of yourselves." This is a stinging indictment. He suggests that we run to the neighbor or the lover because we are fleeing from ourselves. We don't want to look in the mirror, so we look at our partner. We don't want to fix our own chaos, so we try to fix theirs. This is not love. It is escapism. True love is when two people, who are both capable of standing happily alone, choose to stand together. This section challenges the listener to examine their motivations. Do you stay in a relationship because you love the person, or because you are terrified of the void that would open up? If they left, Nietzsche says that the person who can leave is the one who can truly stay. If you are incapable of leaving emotionally or physically, your presence is not a choice, it is a necessity. And necessity is not love. Love must be the free choice of a free spirit. Solitude acts as a filter. It purifies the emotions. When you are constantly with someone, your feelings become muddy, reactive, and habitual. When you step away into the cave of your own mind, the sediment settles. You see clearly. You realize what is essential and what is trivial. Nietzsche advises the lover to flee into your solitude periodically, not to abandon the beloved, but to refresh the self so that one can return to the beloved with something new to offer. A relationship without solitude is like a fire without air. It chokes. For the sleepless mind, this is a comforting thought. We often lie awake feeling lonely, even if someone is sleeping next to us. Nietzsche reframes this. He says, "Do not fear this aloneness. Embrace it. This darkness, this silence. This is your workshop. This is where you forge your character. Instead of reaching for the phone to dissipate the feeling, sink into it. I am alone, and that is good." By making friends with your own solitude, you stop putting pressure on your partner to be your everything. No human can be your entire world. Only you can be your world. Nietzsche uses the image of the star to describe the ideal individual. A star is a solitary object. It is separated from other stars by vast distances of cold space. Yet, it is precisely this distance that allows it to shine as a distinct point of light. If the stars merged, they would lose their definition. Nietzsche wants lovers to be star friends, orbiting each other, influencing each other with their gravity, but maintaining their distinct, fiery spheres. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, practice the art of sublime solitude. Before you close your eyes, put away all devices and cease all communication for just 15 minutes. Do not read, do not watch, do not speak. Simply lie in the dark and be with yourself. If anxiety arises, greet it. If boredom arises, watch it. Say to yourself, I am comfortable in my own skin. I am a complete world. By calibrating your relationship with yourself in these few minutes, you remove the desperate, clinging energy from your relationships with others. You prepare yourself to love tomorrow, not as a needy fugitive running from silence, but as a sovereign spirit returning from the mountain. Section 4. Star Friendship. We now ascend to the celestial mechanics of human connection. Having established the necessity of solitude, Nietzsche offers us a model for how two solitary, powerful individuals should relate. He calls this star friendship, Sternenfreundschaft. This is perhaps one of the most beautiful and melancholy concepts in his entire philosophy. It posits that the highest form of love is not a merger, but an orbit. It is the relationship between two stars that are separated by the cold, vast silence of space, yet are bound together by the invisible, unbreakable law of their mutual gravity. They do not crash into each other. They do not eclipse each other. They simply shine in each other's presence, across the distance. Nietzsche introduces this concept to counter the suffocating closeness that society often labels as intimacy. We are taught that to love someone is to have no secrets, no boundaries, and no space. We want to be one flesh. Nietzsche views this fusion as a disaster. When two stars collide, they destroy each other. When two people merge completely, they lose the distinct edges of their personalities that made them interesting in the first place. The star friendship honors the pathos of distance. It acknowledges that there is a sacred territory within every human being that can never be crossed and should never be crossed. The historical ghost haunting this section is, again, Richard Wagner. When Nietzsche broke with Wagner, it was a rupture of seismic proportions in his life. He loved Wagner as a father and a mentor, but he realized that staying in Wagner's orbit meant suffocating his own philosophy. He had to pull away to become Nietzsche. Later, writing about this break, he used the metaphor of the stars. He suggested that he and Wagner were two ships that had to steer in different directions because their goal commanded it. They might meet again in some distant ocean, but for now, they had to be enemies in order to remain true to their own trajectories. He reframed the breakup not as a failure of love, but as a necessity of the stars. A rare and poetic detail in the gay science is Nietzsche's description of the invisible curve. He writes that we are friends who have become strangers, but this is the law of the stars. We are drawn by a grander curve. This perspective is incredibly healing for the sleepless mind, ruminating on lost relationships or distant friends. We often feel guilty when we drift apart from people. We think, I failed. Nietzsche says, you did not fail. You simply followed your curve. The distance is not an emptiness. It is a structure. It is the necessary space that allows both of you to continue your journey without collision. Furthermore, star friendship applies to the person sleeping next to you. Even in a marriage of 50 years, Nietzsche insists on the preservation of the stranger within the partner. We must never assume we know the other person completely. To claim, I know everything about you, is to reduce a living, changing galaxy into a static map. It is an insult to their complexity. By maintaining a respectful distance, a sense of awe and mystery, we keep the erotic and intellectual tension alive. We look across the pillow and see not a possession, but a star, a separate world with its own gravity, its own history, and its own destiny. This patrician view of love elevates the relationship. It removes the petty bickering of enmeshment. When you are too close, you see every pore, every flaw, every minor irritation. You step on each other's toes. When you step back into the star position, you see the light. You see the person as a whole. You realize that you do not own them. You are simply witnessing them. This shift from ownership to witness is the essence of freedom. For the anxious sleeper, the lesson is to release the grip. We often cling to our loved ones mentally, terrified that if we let go, they will drift away. Nietzsche reminds us that gravity works better across distance. You do not need to hold a planet in your hand to keep it in orbit. The laws of physics do the work. Similarly, you do not need to micromanage your partner to keep them in love. Trust the gravity of your shared history and your shared values. Let there be space in your togetherness. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, visualize your relationship as a night sky. See yourself as a bright, burning star. See your loved one as another star, distinct and separate. Visualize the dark, quiet space between you. Do not try to bridge it or fill it with noise. Accept the space as a sign of respect. Whisper to the image of your partner, "I salute your orbit." By acknowledging their separateness, you release the anxiety of control. You can sleep soundly in your own sphere, knowing that the gravity of love is strong enough to hold you both without chains. Section 5. Overcoming pity. We now arrive at the most controversial and widely misunderstood aspect of Nietzsche's philosophy, his relentless attack on Mitleid, translated as pity or compassion. In a world that elevates empathy to the highest virtue, Nietzsche stands as a lone dissenter, warning that pity is a dangerous drug. In this section, we must tread carefully to understand what he means. Nietzsche is not advocating for cruelty. He is advocating for dignity. He believes that pity is a form of contempt that weakens both the giver and the receiver. To love someone is to want them to be strong. To pity someone is to accept that they are weak. Nietzsche analyzes the mechanics of pity with surgical precision. When we pity someone, we look down on them. We see them as a victim. We suffer with them, which means we double the amount of suffering in the world without actually solving the problem. If your friend is in a deep hole, and you jump into the hole to empathize with them, now there are two people in the hole. Nietzsche argues that the true friend does not jump in. The true friend throws down a rope. The true friend stands firm on the edge, maintaining their height and their strength so they can pull the other person up. This is the difference between soft love and hard love. The historical context is Nietzsche's revulsion toward the religion of pity he saw in Schopenhauer and Christianity. He believed that this culture of pity was creating a civilization of the last man humans who only want comfort, safety, and to be coddled. Nietzsche wanted a civilization of Übermensch Overmen humans who could embrace suffering, learn from it, and overcome it. He saw suffering not as an evil to be drugged away by sympathy, but as the fire that forges the sword. When we rush to soothe our partner's pain immediately, we might be robbing them of their growth. We are acting like an overprotective mother who never lets her child graze a knee. A rare nuance here is the concept of the shame of suffering. Nietzsche suggests that great suffering has a dignity to it. When we pity someone, we violate their privacy. We make a spectacle of their pain. He tells the story of a noble soul who hides their wounds because they do not want to burden others or be looked at with dog-like eyes of pity. To respect someone is to respect their suffering, to acknowledge it without trying to drown it in sentimental tears. It is to say, I see you are in pain, and I know you are strong enough to bear it. This section is vital for the sleeper who is kept awake by the guilt of the empath. Many sensitive people cannot sleep because they feel the pain of the world or the pain of a partner too acutely. They feel guilty if they are happy when others are sad. Nietzsche liberates us from this guilt. He argues that your misery helps no one. By remaining strong, cheerful, and robust, you provide a shelter for the suffering person. You become a beacon of health. If the doctor faints at the sight of blood, he is useless. He must remain cool and detached to perform the surgery. In love, we must sometimes be the surgeon. Nietzsche warns that pity is often a disguise for power. When we help the poor victim, we feel superior. We feel like the savior. This is a subtle ego trip. True love sheds this superiority. It helps, but it helps with a fast hand, quickly and silently. So the receiver does not feel humiliated by the charity. It preserves the equality of the relationship. The action here is to check our impulse to save. When your partner complains or struggles, the instinct is to coddle. Nietzsche suggests a different response: challenge, encouragement. This is hard, but you are built for hard things. This transfers agency back to them. It stops the drain on your own energy. You do not need to carry their cross. They have their own shoulders, and their shoulders need the exercise. Actionable conclusion. Identify a situation where you are feeling pity for someone close to you. Notice how this pity makes you feel heavy, sad, and tired. Now, try to transmute that pity into trust. Shift your internal monologue from, "Oh, you poor thing, let me fix it," to "I witness your struggle, and I believe in your power to overcome it." Visualize them not as a broken bird, but as a warrior in the midst of a training exercise. By withdrawing your emotional coddling, you give them the gift of your respect. You can sleep peacefully knowing that you are honoring their strength, not enabling their weakness. Section 6. Mitfreude, shared joy. If we reject pity, Mitleid, suffering with, what do we replace it with? Nietzsche offers a radiant alternative: Mitfreude, shared joy, or rejoicing with. He argues that it is incredibly easy to sympathize with suffering. Any mediocre person can feel bad for a friend who breaks their leg, but it requires a truly noble, high-minded soul to sympathize with success, to feel genuine, unadulterated joy when your friend succeeds, when they are happier than you, when they win and you lose. This is the ultimate test of love. Nietzsche observes that most relationships are cemented by shared misery. We bond over complaints. We bond over how hard life is. Commiseration is the glue of the herd. But Nietzsche wants a love that bonds over shared triumphs. He asks, can you bear the light of your partner's brilliance without squinting? Can you let them shine without feeling a secret pang of envy or inadequacy? Envy is the shadow that blocks Mitfreude. The spirit of gravity weighs us down with comparison. But the free spirit is so overflowing with their own life, as seen in Section 2, that they have no need to compare. The historical imagery here draws on Nietzsche's love of the Greeks and the concept of the agon contest. But in this context, it is the celebration of the victor. He also draws on the natural world. He often speaks of the laughing lion or the soaring eagle. These creatures do not sulk. They affirm life. Nietzsche sees Joy-Freud as a deeper, more primal force than pain. Woe implies deeply die, but all joy wants eternity. Doch alle Lust will Ewigkeit. Therefore, to focus on shared joy is is to align the relationship with the eternal, life-affirming forces of the universe. A rare and psychological insight in this section is the idea that shared pain is draining, while shared joy is energizing. When we spend an evening complaining with a partner, we go to bed exhausted and cynical. The relationship feels like a hospital ward. When we spend an evening celebrating a small victory, a good meal, a funny joke, a sunset, we go to bed energized. Nietzsche advises us to be the architects of joy for our loved ones. We should actively hunt for reasons to celebrate them. This Mitfreude is the antidote to the tall poppy syndrome in relationships. Sometimes, one partner grows faster than the other. The slower partner might subconsciously try to sabotage the faster one, or the faster one might dim their light to avoid hurting the other's feelings. Nietzsche shouts, "No shine," and you, the slower one, look at that light and say, "That is my light too, because that is my partner." By appropriating their joy, you participate in it. You rise with them. For the sleeper, this shifts the focus of the nightly review. Instead of lying awake, worrying about problems, shared pain, Nietzsche invites us to hunt for the gold of the day. What went right? What did your partner do well? Even if they just made a good cup of coffee, rejoice in that mastery. This rewires the brain from a threat detection machine to a joy detection machine. Nietzsche also links this to friendship as the highest model for marriage. Lovers might be jealous. Friends rejoice in each other's powers. He wants lovers to become best friends in this specific sense, competitors who cheer for each other. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, perform the Mitfreude exercise. Recall a recent success or a moment of happiness your partner or friend experienced. It doesn't matter if you had a bad day. Step out of your own narrative and step into theirs. Feel the texture of their victory. Imagine high-fiving them spiritually. Say to yourself, "Your victory is my victory. Your joy increases the total joy of our world." If you feel a twinge of jealousy, acknowledge it and then blow it away like dust. Choose to be the mirror that reflects their light back to them. Doubled. Sleep in the warmth of that reflected glory. Section 7. The friend is the best enemy. We now encounter one of Nietzsche's most bracing and masculine concepts, the idea that a true friend and, by extension, a true lover must be your best enemy. In our modern softness, we want a lover who agrees with us, who validates us, and who tells us we are perfect just the way we are. Nietzsche considers this a betrayal. If I love you, I want you to become the highest version of yourself. I want you to overcome yourself. And you cannot do that if I am constantly handing you a soft pillow. Sometimes, I must be the hammer. Nietzsche writes in Zarathustra, "In your friend you should possess your best enemy. Your heart should feel closest to him when you oppose him." This sounds paradoxical, but it is rooted in the ancient Greek concept of the agon, the contest that sharpens skills. Think of two fencers. They strike at each other. They look for weaknesses. They block and parry. Are they enemies? No. They are partners in excellence. Without the other, they would become sloppy. Nietzsche views love as a spiritual fencing match. We should challenge our partners intellectually and morally. We should not tolerate their mediocrity. The historical context is Nietzsche's hatred of comfort. He saw the 19th century bourgeois marriage as a long conversation in a warm room, where both souls slowly fell asleep and rotted. He wanted a relationship that was cold air, high mountains, and dangerous climbs. He believed that friction creates fire. If there is no friction in your relationship, if there is only, yes, dear, then the fire is dead. A rare and subtle detail here is the distinction between destructive criticism and creative opposition. The bad enemy wants to destroy you. The best enemy wants to construct you. They oppose your current self for the sake of your future self. They say, "You are better than this behavior." They hold up a mirror that does not flatter, but reveals the potential. Nietzsche warns that this requires a hard shell. You must be strong enough to withstand the truth from your lover, and brave enough to speak it. This is not about nagging or petty bickering, which is gravity. It is about the great war of self-overcoming. For the sleeper who is ruminating on an argument, this offers a profound reframe. We usually view conflict as a sign that something is wrong. Nietzsche suggests conflict might be a sign that something is alive. If your partner challenged you today, do not be resentful. Ask, did they touch a truth? Did they expose a weakness I need to fix? If you view the conflict as a training exercise, the emotional sting vanishes. You stop feeling attacked and start feeling sharpened. This concept also protects us from the echo chamber. If we only love people who agree with us, we become stagnant. We need the other, the person who sees the world differently, to expand our own vision. The best enemy forces us to justify our values, to think deeper, to be clearer. They are the whetstone for our sword. Nietzsche advises, "Art thou a slave? Then thou canst not be a friend. Art thou a tyrant? Then thou canst not have friends." The best enemy dynamic only works between equals. Slaves just obey. Tyrants just command. Only free spirits can spar. Actionable conclusion. Reflect on a recent criticism or challenge you received from your loved one. Instead of nursing the wound to your ego, strip away the tone and look at the substance. Is there a grain of truth that can make you stronger? Tonight, mentally, thank your partner for playing the role of the best enemy. Say to yourself, "Thank you for not letting me be mediocre. Thank you for the friction that polishes me." Reframe the battlefield of the day as a gymnasium of the soul. You are not wounded. You are merely worked out. Sleep with the satisfaction of an athlete who has trained hard. Section 8. The Art of Forgetting for Regeneration. We move now to one of the most therapeutically potent concepts in Nietzsche's arsenal, the power of active forgetting, actives vergessen. In our modern world, we prize memory. We think a good mind is a steel trap that holds on to every detail, every date, and every conversation. But Nietzsche argues that a healthy mind is more like a sieve. It holds the nuggets of gold, but lets the sand and water flow through. In the context of love, he posits that the ability to forget is not a weakness, but a vital biological function. It is the janitorial service of the soul. Without active forgetting, a relationship becomes a haunted house, cluttered with the ghosts of every argument, every slight, and every mistake from the past. Nietzsche describes the person who cannot forget as a dyspeptic, someone who cannot digest their food. If you eat a meal, your body takes the nutrients and then eliminates the waste. If you kept the waste inside you, you would be poisoned. Similarly, in a relationship, we consume experiences. Some are nourishing joy, intimacy, and some are waste irritation, misunderstanding. The person who remembers everything, who says, I forgive, but I don't forget is suffering from spiritual constipation. They carry the toxic waste of the past into the present. Nietzsche challenges us to be strong enough to forget. To forget is to digest. It is to extract the lesson and discard the emotion. The historical reference point here comes from Nietzsche's essay on the uses and disadvantages of history for life. He describes a herd of cows grazing in a field. They are happy. Why? Because they do not know what yesterday is. They live entirely in the non-historical moment. Nietzsche does not want us to be cows, but he envies their unburdened state. He contrasts them with the brooding modern human who carries a crushing burden of "it was." In love, the "it was" is the killer of the "it is." When we look at our partner and see only their past failures, we are not seeing them. We are seeing a historical document. To love is to grant the other person the grace of a fresh start, not once, but every morning. A rare and fascinating detail is Nietzsche's description of forgetting as a doorkeeper or a guardian of psychic order. He imagines the mind has a door. Active forgetting is the bouncer who stops the noise of the past from crashing the party of the present. This requires effort. It is not passive amnesia. It is a decisive choice. It is saying, I choose not to store this hurt. I choose not to file this grievance. This is the ultimate act of renewal. It allows the relationship to remain young. A relationship that remembers everything grows old and wrinkled very quickly. A relationship that forgets stays like a child, innocent and ready for play. For the sleepless mind, this section is a balm. Insomnia is often caused by the inability to forget the day's frictions. We lie in bed replaying the tape. Why did he say that? I should have said this. We are ruminating. Nietzsche invites us to cut the tape. He argues that holding onto a grudge is an act of weakness. It shows that the injury was stronger than you. To forget is a display of power. It shows that your digestion is so robust that you can consume an insult and turn it into nothingness. You remain untouched. Nietzsche links this to the concept of plastic power. Plastische Kraft, the power to heal and regenerate. A healthy tissue heals a wound and leaves only a faint scar, or no scar at all. A sick tissue festers. Active forgetting is the sign of high plasticity. It means you are so overflowing with life that you can afford to let go of the debt. You don't need to make them pay because you are already rich. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, visualize the doorkeeper of your mind. Identify one grievance or annoyance from the past 24 hours that you are holding onto a snide comment, a forgotten chore, a moment of friction. Look at it. Ask yourself, does keeping this serve my strength, or does it poison my sleep? Command the doorkeeper to push it out the door. Visualize it dissolving into the night air. Declare the space of your mind cleared for the new day. By actively flushing out the psychic toxins, you return to the innocence of the present moment, where sleep is waiting. Section 9. Love as a dance of freedom. We return to the central metaphor of the Nietzschean worldview, the dance. In this section, we explore the physicality of love, not in the sexual sense, but in the kinetic sense. Nietzsche famously declared, I do not know what the spirit of a philosopher could wish to be more than a good dancer. For Nietzsche, dancing is the ultimate symbol of freedom because it obeys law's rhythm, steps, but expresses total liberty within those laws. It is heavy-grounded and light-leaping at the same time. Love, he argues, must become a dance. It must move. It must be agile. It must not sit still and stagnate like a swamp. Nietzsche contrasts the Germanic heaviness, which he associated with beer, fog, and the ponderous music of Wagner with the Mediterranean lightness, which he associated with sun, clear air, and the nimble music of Bizet's Carmen. He loved Carmen because it was dry, fiery, and precise. It didn't drag you down into a swamp of emotion. It kept you on your toes. He wanted love to be like that, crisp and dangerous. He despised the sticky kind of love that adheres two people together until they can't move. He wanted a love where two people circle each other, approach and retreat, spin and dip. This is the dance of freedom. The chain versus the thread is a crucial distinction here. The spirit of gravity binds lovers with iron chains, obligations, contracts, guilt. The dance binds lovers with an invisible silk thread, the rhythm of the music. In a dance, you must be sensitive to your partner's movement, but you must hold your own balance. If you lean your full weight on your dance partner, you both fall over. This is a profound lesson for relationships. Codependency is simply bad dancing. It is leaning too hard. Independence is good dancing. It is holding your own frame so that the movement can flow. A rare and beautiful detail in Zarathustra is the praise of light feet, leichte Füße. Nietzsche writes that the devil is the spirit of gravity, but the Savior is the one with light feet. To have light feet in love means you are adaptable. You can pivot. If plans change, you don't crumble. You adjust the step. If your partner changes, you don't panic. You follow the new rhythm. Stiffness is the enemy. Rigidity is the rigor mortis of love. The dancer is always ready for the unexpected. This metaphor heals the anxiety of permanence. We often lie awake worrying. Will this last forever? Is this the final destination? Nietzsche laughs at the idea of a destination. The dance is the point. You don't dance to get to the other side of the room. You dance to enjoy the music. If you view your relationship as a journey to a fixed point marriage, death, you are marching. If you view it as a dance, you are focused on the quality of the current step. This removes the pressure of the future. The only question is, are we moving well together right now? Nietzsche also touches on the danger of the dance. Dancing on the edge of a precipice is more thrilling than walking on a flat road. He encourages lovers to take risks, to introduce novelty, to play with fire. A relationship that is safe and comfortable is often a relationship that has stopped moving. The dancer prefers the risk of a misstep to the boredom of standing still. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, visualize your relationship not as a static structure like a house, but as a kinetic event, like a waltz. Identify where you feel stiff or rigid. Perhaps you are insisting things must be done a certain way, or you are resisting a change your partner is going through. Consciously relax your knees. Mentally loosen your grip. Imagine yourself taking a step back, then a step forward, matching the energy of your partner. Say to yourself, I am not a statue. I am a dancer. Feel the relief of movement. Sleep comes easier to the body that is fluid than to the body that is braced against the world. Section 10. Remain true to the earth. We descend now from the metaphor of the dance to the solid ground beneath our feet. One of Nietzsche's most famous commandments in Thus Spoke Zarathustra is, I beseech you, my brothers, remain true to the earth, and do not believe those who speak to you of otherworldly hopes. In the context of love, this is a radical call to realism. It is a rejection of the Disneyfication of romance. It is a command to love the flesh and blood reality of the person in front of you, rather than the soulmate ideal you have constructed in your head. Nietzsche wages war against the backworldsmen Hinterwäldler, those who believe the real world is dirty and flawed, and that truth lies in some perfect world behind heaven, or the Platonic realm of forms. In relationships, the backworldsman is the person who is always disappointed because their partner is human. They complain, "He is not my Prince Charming. She is not my goddess." They are measuring the living person against a ghost. Nietzsche argues this is a crime against life. The ideal is a vampire that sucks the blood out of the real. Nietzsche's historical context is his revolt against Christianity and Romanticism, both of which he felt despised the body. They elevated the soul and degraded the flesh. Nietzsche wanted to reclaim the sanctity of the body. He insisted that love is a physiological event. It involves smell, touch, taste, and digestion. It involves aging, sickness, and mortality. To remain true to the earth means to love your partner's wrinkles, their morning breath, their bad habits, their fluctuating moods. This is not settling. It is affirming. It is saying yes to life as it actually is, not as a poet wishes it to be. A rare and grounding detail is Nietzsche's focus on the nearest things die nächsten Dinge. He criticized philosophers who worried about the cosmos but ignored their own diet. In love, he urges us to focus on the nearest things, the temperature of the room, the texture of the meal, the kindness of a glance. These physical realities are more important than abstract debates about commitment or eternity. If you cannot enjoy a walk in the woods with your partner, no amount of abstract love will save you. The earth is where we live. The earth is where we love. This section provides a powerful antidote to the grass is greener syndrome that plagues many sleepless minds. We lie awake wondering, is there someone better out there? Did I choose the right one? Nietzsche slams this door shut. The better one is an illusion of the backworld. The right one is the one who is physically present. By grounding yourself in the earth, you stop chasing phantoms. You realize that the imperfect, finite, mortal love you have is infinitely more valuable than the perfect, infinite, immortal love you imagine, simply because the first one exists and the second one does not. To remain true to the earth is also to accept the seasons of love. The earth has winter. It is cold and barren. The backworldsman thinks winter is a mistake. He wants eternal summer. The Nietzschean realist accepts winter as a necessary part of the cycle. If your relationship is in a winter phase, do not panic. Do not look for a new world. Just put on a coat and wait for spring. The earth always turns. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, perform a grounding ritual. Reach out and physically touch something real, the fabric of your sheets, the wood of your bed frame, or the skin of your partner if they are there. Focus entirely on the sensation of touch. Feel the texture, the warmth, the solidity. Tell yourself, this is real. The fantasy in my head is smoke. I choose this reality. By anchoring your mind in the sensory experience of the here and now, you stop the spiraling thoughts of what if and if only. You return to the earth, which is the only place where rest and true love can be found. Section 11, Smashing Old Idols. We arrive at the sound of shattering glass. Nietzsche subtitled one of his last books, How to Philosophize with a Hammer. His goal was to tap on the idols of his age, the unquestioned truths, the sacred cows, the societal norms, to hear which ones were hollow. And he found that most of them were empty. In this section, we apply the hammer to the idols of love. These are the scripts society has handed us about how relationships should look: the timeline of dating, the gender roles, the definition of success, the necessity of marriage, the monogamy, the till death do us part. Nietzsche dares us to smash these idols if they ring hollow for us, and to create our own values from the shards. This is the transition from the camel to the lion, a famous metamorphosis in Zarathustra. The camel carries the heavy load of thou shalt society's rules. The lion fights the dragon and says, I will. In love, many of us are camels. We get married because one should. We have children because one should. We stay together because one should. And we are miserable because we are living someone else's life. Nietzsche calls for the lion to roar. He demands that we ask, does this rule serve my life? Does it serve our love? If not, it must be destroyed. The historical context is Nietzsche's own life as an outlier. He abandoned a prestigious professorship at Basel to live a nomadic life. He challenged the academic and social norms of 19th century Europe. He paid a high price in loneliness, but he bought his freedom. He warns us that smashing idols is scary. The herd will judge you. They will say you are doing it wrong. But Nietzsche argues that you cannot be a sovereign individual if you are following a template. Your love must be a custom job, not a mass-produced product. A rare and precise detail is the function of the hammer. It is not a sledgehammer for mindless destruction. It is a tuning fork. You tap the idol. If it rings true, you keep it. If it sounds hollow, you break it. This means you don't have to reject all tradition. You might choose marriage, but you choose it because it rings true for you, not because your mother expects it. The difference is the locus of authority. The authority moves from the they society to the I, the self. For the sleepless mind, this section relieves the pressure of keeping up. We often lie awake feeling like failures because our relationship doesn't look like the ones on Instagram or in movies. We aren't romantic enough. We don't go on enough dates. We are sleeping in separate beds. Chiu. Nietzsche says, who cares? Who wrote those rules? If sleeping in separate beds allows you both to rest and love better, then that is your truth. Smash the idol of the shared bed if it is hollow for you. Smash the idol of the perfect anniversary. Liberate yourself from the comparison. Nietzsche calls for a transvaluation of values, Umwertung aller Werte. In love, this means defining success on your own terms. Maybe success for you isn't longevity. Maybe it's intensity. Maybe it isn't living together. Maybe it's living apart. The freedom to design the architecture of your own love life is the ultimate maturity. It requires courage, but it eliminates the friction of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, identify one should that is haunting your relationship. We should spend more time together. I should feel more passion. We should stop arguing. Ask yourself, is this rule coming from inside me or from the outside world? Tap it with the hammer. If it sounds hollow, if it's just a source of guilt without joy, mentally smash it. Visualize it shattering into dust. Replace the should with an is. We are this way, and that works for us. Reclaim the authorship of your own romance. Sleep with the peace of a creator who answers to no critic but their own conscience. Section 12. Amor fati, loving the fate of the other. We reach the summit of Nietzsche's affirmative philosophy, amor fati, or the love of fate. This is not merely a stoic tolerance of what happens. It is an enthusiastic, almost ecstatic acceptance of reality exactly as it is. Nietzsche defines his formula for human greatness as that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it. When we apply this rigorous standard to our relationships, we encounter the ultimate challenge. Can you look at your partner with their history of trauma, their annoying habits, their specific limitations, and their inevitable mortality and say, I would not change a single pixel of this picture? This section confronts the editor within us. In most relationships, we are constantly editing our partners. We have a red pen in our minds, crossing out the parts we dislike. I love him, but I wish he was more ambitious. I love her, but I wish she wasn't so anxious. Nietzsche argues that this but is a rejection of reality. It is a form of hatred. You cannot love a person if you are secretly waiting for them to become someone else. Amor fati demands that we love the whole catastrophe of the other person. We must love the mud as much as the diamond, because the mud is part of the geology that created the diamond. The historical context of this idea is deeply moving. Nietzsche lived a life of excruciating physical pain, migraines, near blindness, severe stomach issues. He could have spent his life cursing his body. Instead, he chose to embrace his illness as a great stimulus to life. He claimed that his suffering gave him his clarity. He applied amor fati to his own biology. In love, we must apply it to our partner's biology, their immutable nature. If your partner is introverted, loving them means loving their silence, not tolerating it until they become chatty. If they are fiery, it means loving the heat, not waiting for them to cool down. A rare and profound detail in this analysis is the connection between amor fati and the necessity of things. Nietzsche believed that everything in the universe is inextricably linked. You cannot pull one thread without unraveling the whole sweater. If you removed your partner's flaw, you might inadvertently remove the very quirk that makes them funny, or the sensitivity that makes them kind. People are packages, not buffets. You cannot pick and choose. To say yes to one part is to say yes to the whole structure. For the sleepless mind, amor fati is the ultimate sedative. Much of our insomnia comes from fighting reality. We lie awake wishing things were different. I wish we hadn't fought. I wish he hadn't lost his job. This resistance creates friction, and friction creates heat. Amor fati removes the friction. You look at the situation, even the painful parts, and you say, this belongs. This is part of the story. By accepting the necessity of the moment, you stop wasting energy on the impossible task of retroactive editing. You align your will with the flow of the river, rather than swimming upstream. This does not mean we accept abuse or toxicity. Nietzsche was a champion of self-respect, as seen in Section 3. It means we accept the past and the essential nature of things. We stop trying to turn an eagle into a cow. We love the eagle for being an eagle, even if it has sharp claws. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, Practice the amor fati meditation. Bring to mind a specific trait of your loved one that usually frustrates you, their messiness, their stubbornness, their forgetfulness, instead of sighing in annoyance. Try to see this trait as a necessary color in the painting of their soul. Say to yourself, I want nothing to be different. This flaw is the shadow that defines the light. Embrace the totality of who they are. By dropping the red pen of the editor, you can finally rest in the imperfect, beautiful reality of the present. Section 13. The necessary danger of love. We now venture into the terrain of risk. One of Nietzsche's most famous exhortations is, live dangerously, build your cities on the slopes of Vesuvius. In an age that worshipped security and insurance, Nietzsche championed the spiritual value of danger. In the context of love, this section challenges the modern obsession with safety. We are often told that a relationship should be a safe harbor. Nietzsche agrees, but he adds a caveat. A ship in a harbor is safe. But that is not what ships are built for. Ships are built for the open ocean. Love that never leaves the harbor of comfort eventually rots. Nietzsche argues that growth requires a certain amount of chaos and risk. If a relationship is perfectly stable, perfectly predicted, and perfectly safe, it is dead. The spirit of gravity. Section 1 loves safety because safety is heavy and immobile. The free spirit loves danger because danger requires agility and alertness. This doesn't mean physical danger. It means emotional danger. It means the risk of being vulnerable, the risk of changing, the risk of challenging each other, the risk of the unknown. The historical backdrop is Nietzsche's admiration for the Renaissance figures and the explorers, people who staked their lives on a new idea or a new world. He contrasted them with the last man who sits in his warm room blinking and saying, "We have invented happiness." The last man wants a relationship where nothing ever goes wrong, where there is no conflict, no intensity. Nietzsche views this as a form of anesthesia. He suggests that a great love affair should feel a bit like a climb up an alpine ridge, breathtakingly beautiful, but requiring intense focus because a fall is possible. The possibility of the fall makes the ascent meaningful. A rare and incisive detail here is the concept of self-overcoming, Selbstüberwindung, through risk. In a dangerous relationship, you are constantly forced to overcome your old self. You have to drop your defenses. You have to admit you were wrong. You have to venture into new territories of intimacy that scare you. This is the Vesuvius Nietzsche speaks of. The volcano might erupt, the relationship might explode, but the fertile soil on the slopes of the volcano produces the sweetest grapes. A love lived in the safe zone produces only bland fruit. For the sleeper, this section addresses the anxiety of uncertainty. We lie awake, asking, what if he leaves? What if we grow apart? We try to insure our love against these risks by clinging tighter. Nietzsche says, let go. The uncertainty is the salt that gives the meal its flavor. If you were guaranteed 100% that your partner would never leave, you would eventually take them for granted. The slight danger of their freedom is what keeps your attention sharp. It reminds you that their presence is a privilege, not a right. This perspective reframes anxiety as excitement. The fluttering in your stomach isn't just fear, it's the sensation of being alive. Nietzsche encourages us to welcome the storms in a relationship not as signs of failure, but as tests of seaworthiness. A storm forces the crew to work together, to tighten the ropes, to steer with purpose, fair weather makes for lazy sailors. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, identify a safe harbor you have been hiding in. Is there a conversation you are avoiding because it's risky? Is there a vulnerability you are hiding to stay safe? Decide to step out of the harbor tomorrow. Take one small emotional risk. Tell your partner something true that scares you. Propose a change to your routine. Embrace the tremble of the unknown. Whisper to yourself, "I choose the open ocean." By accepting the necessary danger of love, you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, and you find the peace of the brave voyager. Section 14. Not parasitizing on the soul. We move now to the anatomy of dependence. Nietzsche is the philosopher of the sovereign individual, and nothing disgusted him more than the parasite, the creature that lives by sucking the lifeblood of another. In love, this parasitism is often disguised as devotion or unity. In this section, we dissect the difference between two strong pillars supporting a temple and a vine strangling a tree. Nietzsche warns that if you cannot stand on your own feet, your love is merely a hunger. You are using the other person as a crutch, and eventually, the crutch will break. Nietzsche uses the image of the rolling wheel, ein aus sich rollendes Rad, to describe the healthy soul. A wheel rolls by its own momentum. It is self-contained. A parasite, by contrast, needs a host. In relationships, the parasite is the partner who has no hobbies, no friends, and no opinions of their own, only the partner's. They say, "I am nothing without you." Romantic poets call this beautiful. Nietzsche calls it pathological. If you are nothing without them, then you are a burden with them. You are parasitizing on the soul of the beloved, draining their energy to fill your own void. The historical context is Nietzsche's observation of the codependent marriages of the 19th century, where women were legally and socially defined by their husbands, and husbands were emotionally dependent on the mothering of their wives. He saw this as a mutual weakness. He famously broke with his friend Paul Ray and Lou Salome when the dynamic became a messy trinity of dependency and jealousy. He retreated to the mountains to recover his sovereignty. He learned that the only way to be a good friend is to first be a strong individual. A rare and subtle nuance in this section is the parasitism of the strong. We usually think of the weak person leeching off the strong, but Nietzsche warns that the strong person can also parasitize the weak. How by needing the other person's weakness to feel strong. I need you to be helpless so I can be the hero. This is a vampire dynamic. The hero is feeding off the victim's inadequacy. True love, Nietzsche argues, wants the other person to be powerful. It does not fear their strength, it celebrates it. It says, "Rise up. I don't need you to be small for me to feel big." This connects back to Section 4, Star Friendship. Stars do not lean on each other. If one star leaned on another, the gravity would cause a catastrophe. They stand apart. This vertical posture is the prerequisite for horizontal connection. For the sleepless mind, this section relieves the exhaustion of carrying the other. Often, we are tired because we are acting as the lung for someone else's breathing, or we are anxious because we feel we cannot breathe without them. Nietzsche invites us to cut the umbilical cord. This sounds scary, but it is the only way to breathe freely. When you realize, I can survive alone, the panic subsides. You are no longer clinging for dear life. You are holding hands for the joy of the journey. Nietzsche asks, are you a new strength and a new right? A first motion, a self-propelling wheel? If the answer is yes, you are ready for love. If the answer is no, you are looking for a nurse. And a nurse-patient relationship is not a romance of equals. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, perform a posture check of your soul. Are you leaning? Are you slumping onto your partner for emotional stability, entertainment, or validation? Visualize yourself standing up straight. Feel your own spine supporting your own weight. Imagine your roots going down into the earth, section 10, and your branches reaching up to the sky. You are a tree, not a vine. Say to yourself, I stand on my own ground. From this position of strength, you can offer shade and shelter to your loved one, not because you need to, but because you are strong enough to do so. Section 15. The virtue of unconditional giving. We arrive now at the radiant core of the Nietzschean heart, the gift-giving virtue, die schenkende Tugend in action. We touched on the source of this in Section 2, Abundance, but here we focus on the method of execution, unconditionality. Nietzsche argues that true nobility is found in the act of giving that seeks no return, keeps no ledger, and asks for no thank you. It is the difference between a transaction and a radiation. Most relationships are transactions. I did this for you, so you owe me that. Nietzsche calls this shopkeeper love. He wants us to ascend to solar love. The sun does not send an invoice to the earth for the light it provides. It does not say, I shone on you yesterday, so today you must shine on me. It shines because it is a sun. Its nature is to give. Nietzsche challenges us to adopt this solar physics. When we love, we should love because it is an expression of our own overflowing power, not a calculation of future profit. The moment you calculate, you have introduced the spirit of gravity weight back into the relationship. You are weighing the love. Solar love is weightless because it just flows. The historical imagery comes from the end of part 1 of Thus Spoke Zarathustra, where Zarathustra is given a staff with a golden handle. He asks, why is gold the highest value? Because it is common in the sense of accessible to all, useless. It has no practical function like iron, and gleaming, it gives light. Gold represents the virtue that gives itself away. Nietzsche contrasts this with the sick selfishness that grabs everything for itself. He praises the healthy selfishness that gathers riches only so it can squander them on others. A rare and critical detail here is the shame of the giver. Nietzsche suggests that a truly noble giver is almost ashamed of their generosity. They do not want to humiliate the receiver. They do not want the receiver to feel indebted. So, they give silently. They give secretly. They hide their hand. This is the ultimate refinement of love. It protects the dignity of the beloved. If you constantly remind your partner of how much you do for them, I work all day for you, you are turning your love into a weapon. You are creating a debt prison. Nietzsche advises us to give, and then immediately forget we gave section 8. So the air remains clear of debt. This section is a profound cure for the resentment that keeps people awake. Resentment is always mathematical. The numbers don't add up. I am in the red. Nietzsche tells us to throw away the calculator. If you are a sun, you don't worry about the math. You worry about the shine. The moment you stop keeping score, the resentment vanishes. You are free. You are not losing anything by giving. you are fulfilling your function as an overflowing being. Nietzsche writes, "Tell me, my brothers, what do we account bad and worst of all? Is it not degeneration? And we always suspect degeneration when the giving soul is lacking. To hold back love, to hoard affection, to ration kindness, this is degeneration. It is the sign of a dying star. To give recklessly, to love wastefully, this is life." Actionable conclusion. Tonight, resolve to perform a solar act tomorrow. Plan to do something kind for your partner that they will never know about. Fix something broken, clean something dirty, or solve a problem they have. But do not tell them you did it. Do not wait for the praise. Do not wait for the credit. Just let the good deed exist in the universe. Feel the strange, secret power of this anonymous giving. It confirms to your own soul that you are wealthy enough to give without a receipt. Sleep with the golden glow of that secret abundance. Section 16. Shedding the mask of hypocrisy. We now confront the theater of the social self. Nietzsche is the great unmasker of Western civilization. He believed that most of us walk around wearing heavy, stifling masks of politeness, morality, and propriety. In the context of love, this mask is the ultimate barrier to intimacy. We are terrified to show our true faces, our shadow sides, our selfishness, our strange desires, because we fear rejection. So, we present a curated, sanitized version of ourselves to our partners. We play the role of the good husband or the perfect wife. Nietzsche warns that this is a fatal error. You cannot love a mask, and a mask cannot love you back. Nietzsche argues that truthfulness, Wahrhaftigkeit, is the measure of a spirit's strength. How much truth can a spirit endure? This is his litmus test. In relationships, the spirit of gravity. Section 1 loves the mask because the mask is safe and predictable. It follows the script. But the free spirit hates the mask because it is dead. Nietzsche challenges lovers to engage in a ruthless sincerity. This does not mean being cruel, which is often just another mask for insecurity. It means being transparent. It means admitting, "I am angry right now," instead of smiling and saying, "I'm fine." It means admitting, "I am scared," instead of pretending to be strong. The historical context here is Nietzsche's disdain for the Victorian-era bourgeoisie of Germany, whom he called cultural Philistines. They were obsessed with appearances. They would have a perfect marriage in public and a cold war in private. Nietzsche saw this hypocrisy as a sickness that rotted the soul from the inside out. He preferred the honest criminal to the dishonest saint. At least the criminal is real. In his own life, Nietzsche stripped away the masks of his academic career and his social standing to live a raw, exposed life as a wandering philosopher. He paid the price in isolation, but he gained the prize of authenticity. A rare and psychological detail in this section is the concept of the actor. Nietzsche warns that if you wear a mask long enough, the mask grows into the face. You forget who you are beneath it. In a relationship, if you pretend to be happy when you are not, eventually you lose the capacity to know what you feel. You become a hollow shell. Nietzsche urges us to take the risk of nudity, not just of the body, but of the soul. To stand before your partner and say, "This is my chaos. This is my darkness." This section offers a profound relief for the sleepless mind. Much of our insomnia comes from impression management. We are exhausted from the performance. We lie awake worrying if we said the right thing, If we looked the right way, Nietzsche says, drop the curtain, stop performing. If your partner loves the performance, they don't love you. They love the character you created. That is a lonely success. But if you drop the mask and they love the face beneath scars and all that is a redemptive victory, Nietzsche asks, what does your conscience say? You shall become the person you are. You cannot become who you are if you are pretending to be someone else. Love is the safe space, or rather, the brave space, as per section 13 where the becoming happens. It is the dressing room where the costumes are hung up and the real human emerges. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, identify one mask you wore today in front of your loved one. Did you feign interest? Did you hide irritation? Did you pretend to agree when you disagreed? Acknowledge that you did this out of fear of conflict, fear of being difficult. Now, visualize yourself slowly peeling that mask off. Feel the cool air on your true face. Resolve that tomorrow. You will offer one moment of dangerous truth. You will say what you actually think, kindly but firmly. By shedding the mask, you lighten the load. You no longer have to carry the heavy prop of a false persona to bed. Section 17. Eternity in the moment. We arrive at the most mystical and mind-bending concept in Nietzsche's philosophy, the eternal recurrence of the same die, ewige Wiederkunft desgleichen. This is the ultimate test of life affirmation. Nietzsche asks us to imagine a demon creeping into our loneliest loneliness and whispering, "This life as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more, and there will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy and every thought and sigh must return to you." How would you react to this demon? Would you throw yourself down and gnash your teeth? Or would you answer, "You are a god, and never have I heard anything more divine"? When we apply this to love, the stakes are terrified and beautiful. Nietzsche challenges us to live our relationships in such a way that we would be willing to repeat them forever. This destroys the habit of killing time or waiting for things to get better. If this moment is going to happen 1,000,000,000 times, you cannot afford to check out. You cannot afford to be petty. You cannot afford to be mediocre. You must make this moment so heavy with meaning, so rich with love, that you would scream yes to its eternal repetition. The historical setting for this thought is the silken silence of Lake Silvaplana in Switzerland. Nietzsche was walking by a pyramidal rock when this thought struck him like a lightning bolt. It was his attempt to replace the Christian afterlife eternity later with a pagan eternity now. He wanted to give the present moment infinite weight. In love, this means we stop treating our partners as stepping stones to a future goal: marriage, kids, retirement. We treat the Tuesday night dinner as an eternal event. The way you look at them now is the way you will look at them forever. A rare and poetic detail is the seal of eternity. Nietzsche speaks of wanting to stamp the seal of eternity on our actions. If you are arguing with your partner, ask yourself, do I want to argue about this dirty dish forever? The answer is likely no. The thought of eternal recurrence snaps you out of the petty trance. It forces you to drop the grudge instantly. But if you are holding your partner's hand, ask, do I want to hold this hand forever? The answer is yes. The thought deepens the joy. It acts as a filter, eliminating the trivial and magnifying the essential. This section cures the future sickness of the modern mind. We are always rushing. We rush through the bedtime story to get the kids to sleep. We rush through the date to get to the movie. Nietzsche grabs us by the shoulders. Stop. There is no later. There is only this cycle. If you rush through love, you are rushing through eternity. You are condemning yourself to an eternity of rushing. To stop and sink into the deep now is the only way to arrest the wheel. Nietzsche writes, "For all joy wants eternity, wants deep, deep eternity. Joy does not want to end. It wants to circle back on itself. When you love deeply, you lose track of time. You enter the great noon where the shadows disappear. This is the state of the superhuman lover. They do not just endure the relationship, they affirm it so radically that they want it to loop." Actionable conclusion. Tonight, try the demon's test. Look back at the last hour you spent with your loved one. If the demon appeared and said, "You must relive this hour 10,000 times," would you accept it? If not, ask why. Was it because you were distracted? Irritable absent. Do not judge yourself, but resolve to change the quality of the next hour. Tomorrow, try to create just one golden moment, a moment of connection so pure, so attentive, that you would gladly sign your name to it for eternity. Sleep with the intent to build a life worthy of infinite repetition. Section 18. Transforming pain into power. We now descend into the forge. Nietzsche is famous for the maxim, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." But in the context of relationships, this is often misused as a cliché for getting over a breakup. Nietzsche means something far more alchemical. He is talking about sublimation, Sublimierung. This is the process of taking raw, chaotic, painful energies, jealousy, anger, grief, disappointment, and transforming them into high, creative, spiritual forms of power. In this section, we learn how to use the inevitable pain of love as fuel for the relationship, rather than as a reason to exit it. Nietzsche argues that a life without pain is a shallow life. A relationship without conflict is a shallow relationship. The last man wants a happiness that is mere contentment, warm soup, and a soft bed. The free spirit knows that great love requires great suffering. Why? Because suffering breaks the shell of the ego. When your partner hurts you, or you hurt them, the illusion of your perfection shatters. You are forced to grow. You are forced to deepen your understanding. Nietzsche views this pain not as a problem to be fixed, but as a stimulus to be used. The historical context is Nietzsche's own psychological collapse and his battles with madness. He often felt that his intellect was sharpened by his suffering. He wrote The Dawn and the Gay Science during periods of remission from intense agony. He treated his pain as a dog that he had to train. In love, we often treat pain as a monster that has invaded the house. Nietzsche says, no, the monster is a form of energy. Harness it. A rare and crucial detail is the concept of the spiritualized passion. Nietzsche argues that we should not extirpate, cut out our passions, but spiritualize them. For example, take jealousy. The weak person lets jealousy turn into bitterness and control. The strong person takes the energy of jealousy, which is fiery and attentive, and sublimates it into a renewed courtship. I am jealous because I value you. Therefore, I will fight for you again. I will become more attractive, more vital. They turn the poison into a tonic. Take anger instead of shouting. Sublimate the anger into a rigorous conversation that solves the root problem. For the sleeper lying in the dark, nursing a wound, this is a radical shift. We usually try to soothe the pain or distract ourselves from it. Nietzsche says, "Look at the wound. It is an opening. Through this opening, you can see reality deeper than before. If you are heartbroken, your heart is broken open. You are more sensitive, more alive. Use that sensitivity. Create art. Write a letter. Make a vow of change. Do not waste the pain." Nietzsche also warns against the resentment that comes from wasted pain. If you suffer and get nothing out of it, you become bitter. If you suffer and learn from it, you become wise. The difference is the will to power, the will to master the experience. In a relationship, the couple that survives a crisis and uses it to build a better foundation is stronger than the couple that never faced a crisis. They have scar tissue, which is tougher than skin. Actionable conclusion. Identify a current source of pain or friction in your love life. Stop wishing it away. Instead, ask, how can I use this? If it is loneliness, use it to build independence. Section 3. If it is conflict, use it to practice truth-telling. Section 16. If it is disappointment, use it to practice amor fati. Section 12. Visualize yourself throwing this painful emotion into a furnace in your belly. Watch it burn and turn into the steam of action. You are not the victim of this pain. You are the master of this fuel. Sleep with the confidence of an alchemist who knows how to turn lead into gold. Section 19. Laughter on the mountaintop. We climb now to the rarefied air where Zarathustra lives the realm of high laughter. Nietzsche is the only philosopher who elevated laughter to a spiritual discipline. He writes, "I have canonized laughter. But this is not the nervous laughter of the polite dinner party, nor the mocking laughter of the cynic. It is the golden laughter, das goldene Gelächter of the victor. It is the laughter that looks down from a great height at the absurdity, the tragedy, and the comedy of existence and says yes to it all. In love, this laughter is the ultimate solvent for the spirit of gravity." Nietzsche argues that we take our relationships far too seriously. We treat every minor disagreement like a Greek tragedy. We treat our own egos like sacred temples. This heaviness kills love. The antidote is to climb the mountain to gain perspective and look down. From the height of 10,000 feet, the argument about the toothpaste cap looks ridiculous. It looks funny. The ability to laugh at oneself and at the relationship is the sign of the free spirit. The historical imagery is the laughing lion. Nietzsche uses this symbol to represent a strength that is so secure it doesn't need to roar in anger. It can roar in laughter. He contrasts this with the serious moralists of his time who walked around with long faces, thinking that misery was a sign of depth. Nietzsche insisted that joy is deeper than sorrow. To laugh in the face of difficulties is to prove that you are bigger than the difficulties. A rare and delightful detail is Nietzsche's test for a partner. In the end, one loves one's desire and not what is desired. Not to be able to take one's enemies, one's accidents, even one's misdeeds seriously for very long, that is the sign of strong, full natures. Apply this to love. Can you and your partner laugh about your misdeeds? Can you laugh about the time you got lost, the time you failed, the time you were broke? If you can turn your trauma into a comedy, You have won. You have digested the past. Section 8. This section is vital for the sleeper who is tight. Insomnia is a form of physical seriousness. The muscles are tense. The mind is gripping. Laughter loosens the grip. It is a biological release. Nietzsche encourages us to view our romantic dramas as a play. You are the actor, but you are also the audience. Watch yourself being jealous. Isn't it a bit melodramatic? Watch yourself being stubborn. Isn't it a bit childish when you can laugh at your own character? The ego deflates, and peace enters. This is the wisdom of the jester. In the royal court, only the jester could tell the king the truth, because he did it with a laugh. In a relationship, humor allows us to say difficult truths without destroying the bond. It lubricates the friction. A couple that laughs together is fighting the spirit of gravity together. They are creating a buffer zone of joy where the harsh edges of reality cannot cut them. Actionable conclusion. Tonight, perform the perspective shift. Imagine you are an eagle soaring high above your house. Look down at yourself lying in bed. Look at your worries, your relationship struggles. From this height, they look like tiny specks. They are not the end of the world. They are just the plot twists of a small, human comedy. Find the humor in your situation. Smile at your own stubbornness. Smile at the absurdity of two apes trying to live together on a spinning rock. Let that internal smile relax your jaw and your shoulders. Sleep with the lightness of one who gets the joke. Section 20. Freedom to fly, freedom to stay. We arrive at the final paradox, the destination of our Nietzschean journey. We have dismantled the chains, smashed the idols, and learned to dance. We have established that true love requires absolute freedom. But now, Nietzsche offers the final twist. The highest freedom is the freedom to bind oneself. It is the bird that sees the cage door wide open, feels the wind on its wings, looks at the vast horizon, and chooses to fly back to the hand of the beloved. Nietzsche distinguishes between freedom from and freedom to. Freedom from is simply rebellion, the teenager running away from home. It is reactive. Many people leave relationships seeking this freedom, only to find themselves lonely and aimless. Freedom, too, is the power of the creator. It is the power to create a law for oneself and obey it. Nietzsche writes of the sovereign individual as the one who has the right to make promises. Only a free person can make a promise. A slave's promise means nothing because they are forced. But when a free spirit says, "I choose you," it is an act of monumental power. This section synthesizes the eagle and the star. The eagle can fly anywhere. The star follows a fixed orbit. Nietzsche wants us to be both. He wants us to have the power of the eagle autonomy, but the fidelity of the star commitment. This is not a contradiction. It is a hierarchy. You must first be an eagle to choose to be a star. You must be capable of leaving to make your staying meaningful. The historical resonance is Nietzsche's solitude. He lived freely, but he missed the star friendship. He realized that total, unanchored freedom can be a cold wasteland. The warmth comes from the voluntary bond. He championed the Übermensch not as a chaotic anarchist, but as a self-legislator, someone who writes their own commandments. In love, the highest commandment is to honor the bond you have freely chosen. A rare and final image is the bow and arrow. The bow must be bent, tension, constraint, to shoot the arrow, freedom, flight. The relationship is the bow, the commitment, the constraints, the work we do together. This is the bending of the wood. It creates the tension that allows our souls to fly toward their highest potential. Without the constraint of the relationship, we are just a piece of wood and a piece of string lying on the ground. We have no power. For the sleeper, this is the ultimate reassurance. You do not have to choose between freedom and love. Love is the exercise of freedom. By staying, by working on the relationship, by forgiving, by loving the unlovable, you are not submitting to a cage. You are exercising your will to power. You are proving that you are strong enough to keep a promise. You are strong enough to love. Nietzsche leaves us with the vision of a love that is beyond good and evil, beyond the petty rules of society, rooted in the earth, reaching for the stars, dancing with light feet, and affirming life in all its terror and beauty. Actionable conclusion. As you prepare for the final descent into sleep, visualize an open door. Outside is the entire universe, full of other possibilities, other lives, other loves. Look at it. Acknowledge that you could walk through it. You are free. Now. Visualize yourself turning away from the door and walking back toward your bed, toward your life, toward your partner. Make the conscious choice to stay. Say to yourself, I am here not because I have to be, but because I choose to be. This is my chosen fate. This is my love. Feel the immense dignity of that choice. Close your eyes, not as a prisoner, but as a sovereign king or queen resting in their own castle. The dance is over for today. The music has faded into the silence of the mountain. You have unbuckled the heavy backpack of the spirit of gravity and laid it by the door. You have taken off the mask that felt so tight against your skin. You are no longer a camel carrying the expectations of the world. You are no longer a beggar asking for scraps of affection. You are a star, burning with your own golden light, suspended in the beautiful, quiet darkness of your own space. Feel the lightness in your feet. The tension of the day is melting away, digested by the power of your active forgetting. The past is a distant echo. The future is a mist. There is only this deep, eternal now. You have looked at your life, at your love, at your struggles, and you have said, yes. Amor fati. You have accepted the mud and the gold. You have accepted the winter and the spring. You are at peace with the necessity of things. The cage door is open. The night sky is vast, and in this vastness, you have found your orbit. You are safe, not because you are hidden, but because you are strong. You are loved, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. Rest now, free spirit. The earth is holding you. The stars are watching you. The dance will begin again tomorrow. But for now, stillness. Sleep in power. Sleep in freedom. Sweet dreams. End of script.